Welcome to All Night Society. Listen carefully, because these stories actually happened. Stefan left his phone on the kitchen counter by mistake. It was not his normal iPhone. It was an old black flip phone. I had never seen it before. I was cleaning the kitchen after breakfast. I picked it up to move it. The screen lit up. There was no password. I clicked on the contacts. There was only one name saved. It said, "The Replacement." My stomach felt tight. Stefan is a good boyfriend. We have lived together for 2 years. He works as a manager at a grocery store. He is quiet and likes to garden. I thought I knew everything about him. I clicked on the messages for that contact. There were dozens of texts. Some were very long. They were not from a person. They looked like notes. The first note was from 2 years ago. It said, Subject 3. Name Manna. Height 5 feet 6 inches. Weight 130 pounds. Hair brown. Status accepted. That is me. My name is Anna. Those are my measurements. I scrolled down. The notes got more specific. They listed my habits. She drinks coffee at 7 a.m. She sleeps on her left side. She has a small scar on her knee. I felt cold. I went to the sink and splashed water on my face. My hands were shaking. I kept scrolling. I wanted to find Subject 1 and Subject 2. I found Subject 2. Her name was Chloe. I remember Chloe. Mark told me about her when we started dating. He said she moved to another country and broke his heart. The note for Chloe said, Status terminated. Too loud. Did not follow the routine. I didn't understand the word. Terminated. I hoped it meant they just broke up. But the notes for her were scary. They listed the exact day she stopped breathing. Then I saw the most recent message. It was sent this morning at 6 a.m. It said, Subject 3 is getting old. She noticed the basement door was unlocked yesterday. She is becoming a risk. Starting search for Subject 4. Under that there was a photo. It was a picture of a girl at the grocery store where Mark works. She was blonde. She was smiling. I heard a noise outside. It was the gravel in the driveway. Stefan was home. He forgot his phone and came back. I put the phone back on the counter. I tried to stand still. I heard his key in the lock. The door opened. Stefan walked in. He looked at me. Then he looked at the phone on the counter. He didn't look angry. He smiled his normal, sweet smile. I forgot something, he said. He walked over and picked up the flip phone. He put it in his pocket. He walked closer to me. He tucked a piece of hair behind my ear. His hand was very cold. Are you okay, Anna? He asked. You look pale. I'm fine, I said. My voice sounded thin. Good, he said. I'm going to go work in the garden. I think I need to dig a new hole for the hedges. He kissed my forehead and went out the back door. I stood in the kitchen. I looked out the window. He was in the backyard. He was holding a shovel. He looked at the house and waved at me. I need to leave. But my car keys are in his pocket. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep going. I still get a cold feeling when I think about that trip. My wife and I went camping last August. We stayed at a place called Black Bear Creek. It is a very deep woods area. It is quiet. There is no cell phone service. We got there on a Friday afternoon. There was only one other family near us. They were in the spot right next to ours. Their tent was big and blue. They had a silver SUV. The family looked normal. There was a mom, a dad, and 2 young boys. The boys were maybe 8 years old. They wore blue hats. The dad waved at me when we pulled in. He did not smile. He just moved his hand. I noticed small things that felt wrong. They were too quiet. Most kids scream and run when they are camping. These boys just sat on a log. They stared at the fire pit. They did not have toys. They did not talk to each other. The mom spent the whole afternoon chopping wood. She did it very fast. She kept looking over her shoulder at the trees. Every time a twig snapped, she froze. She looked like she was waiting for something bad to happen. At 6 p.m., I walked to the water pump. The dad was there. I said, "Nice weather, right?" He did not look at me. He looked at the ground. He gripped his water jug so hard his knuckles were white. "We shouldn't have come here," he whispered. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just walked back to his tent. That night, it was very dark. We went to bed around 10 p.m. The woods were silent. Usually, you hear crickets or owls. That night, there was nothing. At 3 a.m., I woke up. I heard a soft sound. It was the sound of a car door closing. Then another one. I peeked out the screen of my tent. I saw their silver SUV. The engine started, but the headlights were off. They drove away slowly. They did not turn on their lights until they were far down the road. They left in total silence. They did not say a word. In the morning, I walked over to their spot. I wanted to see if they were okay. They were gone, but their stuff was still there. The big blue tent was still up. Their sleeping bags were still inside. The fire was still smoking a little bit. Their cooler was full of food. They even left their keys on the picnic table. Nobody leaves their car keys. Nobody leaves an expensive tent and all their food. I looked at the dirt around their tent. I saw the footprints of the family. But I saw other footprints too. There were dozens of them. They were large boot prints. They didn't come from the road. They came from the deep woods. The boot prints circled the family's tent over and over. In some places, the dirt was scuffed where someone had stood still for a long time. The boot prints followed the tracks of their SUV as it drove away. I didn't pack our bags. I just grabbed my wife and my car keys. We left our tent there. We left our chairs. We drove away and didn't look back. I still wonder what that dad saw in the trees. I wonder who was wearing those boots. But mostly, I wonder if that family ever made it home. I still can't close my eyes without hearing their voices. It was supposed to be a simple weekend. My girlfriend, Jenny, and I drove 3 hours to a state park. We found a spot near the river. We had a blue cooler, a cheap tent from Walmart, and 2 sleeping bags. The couple next to us arrived around 4 p.m. They drove a silver SUV. They didn't have much gear. They just had 1 small green tent and 2 folding chairs. The man was tall and wore a gray hoodie. The woman had long, dark hair that covered her face. They didn't build a fire. They just sat in their chairs and watched us. I waved at them once. The man did not wave back. He just stared. "They are weird," Jenny whispered while we ate our hot dogs. "Maybe they just like the quiet," I said. We went into our tent at 10 p.m. It was very dark. The woods were silent. About an hour later, I heard the grass crunch. It was a soft sound. Someone was walking very close to our tent. Then the whispering started. At first, I thought they were talking to each other in their own tent. But the voices were too close. They were standing right outside our tent. I could hear the man's heavy breathing. "The girl has better eyes," the woman whispered. Her voice was flat and dry. "The boy is strong," the man replied. "He can do the heavy lifting at the house." My heart hit my ribs like a hammer. I reached out and grabbed Jenny's hand. She was wide awake. Her hand was shaking. "We can't take both," the woman said. "There is not enough room in the basement for 2 more." "I know," the man said. "We have to choose. Which one do we keep?" I felt a cold sweat on my neck. They weren't talking about robbing us. They were talking about us like we were animals at a shelter. "The girl is small," the woman whispered. "She will be easier to handle if she screams. But the boy will last longer," the man said. I heard a soft sound. It was the sound of a finger rubbing against the side of our tent. The nylon fabric made a high, scratching noise. The finger followed the line of the zipper. It stopped right near my head. "We keep the girl," the woman finally said. "We use the boy for the parts. The garden needs it anyway." They stayed there for hours. They kept talking about what they would do with the one they kept. They talked about locks. They talked about a room with no windows. They talked about breaking her spirit. Jenny was crying, but she didn't make a sound. We sat frozen in our sleeping bags. I had a small pocket knife, but it felt useless. Around 4 a.m., the whispering stopped. I heard their footsteps move back to their site. Then I heard their car door open and close quietly. They didn't start the engine. They just sat there. As soon as the sun came up, I didn't even pack the tent. I grabbed the car keys in Jenny's hand. We ran to my car. The couple was sitting in their SUV. The windows were tinted, but I could see their silhouettes. They were both looking straight at us. They didn't move. They didn't try to stop us. I drove as fast as I could. We didn't stop until we found a gas station 20 miles away. I called the police, but they said they couldn't do much. Talking isn't a crime. When the Rangers went to the campsite, the silver SUV was gone. We left our tent, our cooler, and our sleeping bags behind. I don't care. I never want to see them again. I just keep thinking about that woman's voice and the way she said, "Which one do we keep?" The nurse on the phone knew my birthday, my social security number, and the scar on my left knee. I was sitting on my couch eating a sandwich when she called. The caller ID said, "Greenwood Medical. Protocol calls for a reminder," she said. Her voice was very cheerful. "We will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. for your procedure." I put my sandwich down. I felt a little cold. "I think you have the wrong person," I said. "I didn't make an appointment." "Is this David?" she asked. She read my full name. She read my home address. It was all correct. "Yes, but I'm not sick," I told her. "I haven't been to the doctor in 3 years." There was a long silence on the line. I heard her typing on a keyboard. "That is strange," she said. Her voice was not cheerful anymore. "It says here you were in our office yesterday for the prep work. You signed the forms in person." I looked at my hands. They were shaking a little bit. "Yesterday, I was at my office all day. I am an accountant. I sat at my desk from 9 to 5. My boss saw me. My coworkers saw me. I was at work yesterday," I said. My voice sounded high and tight. "David, I am looking at the security log," she said. "You checked in at 2:15 p.m. You wore a red flannel shirt and jeans." I looked at my laundry basket in the corner of the room. My red flannel shirt was at the top of the pile. I remembered putting it there this morning. But I hadn't worn it yesterday. I wore a gray suit. "I need to speak to the doctor," I said. "The doctor is busy," she said. "But he left a note on your file. He said the internal growth is moving faster than expected. He said it was very important that you don't try to hide it anymore." I stood up. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I didn't know why I did it. I just felt like I needed to be behind a locked door. I took off my shirt. I looked at my chest in the mirror. Everything looked normal. I turned around to look at my back. There was a large piece of medical tape between my shoulder blades. It was white and clean. I reached back. I pulled the tape off. It hurt. It pulled at my skin. Under the tape, there was a small, neat cut. It was closed with 3 black stitches. The skin around it was bruised purple and yellow. I started to breathe very fast. I never went to the doctor. I never had surgery. Someone had cut me, and I didn't remember it. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text message from the same office number. It was a photo. The photo was taken from inside my own closet. It showed me sitting on the couch from behind. I was holding my sandwich. I could see the back of my head. Below the photo, there was a text. "You forgot to take your pills after the prep work. We are coming over to help you finish the surgery." I heard my front door unlock. I didn't hear a break-in. I heard a key turn in the lock. I only have one spare key. I keep it in my kitchen drawer. Footsteps walked across the hardwood floor in my living room. They were heavy and slow. "David?" a voice called out. It was my voice. The person sounded exactly like me. "The doctor is here," my voice said from the other side of the bathroom door. "Stop being difficult. We need that part back." The doorknob began to turn. I leaned my weight against the door. I started to scream for help. Then, the nurse's voice came over the phone again. She was still on the line. "Don't scream, David," she said quietly. "It makes the heart rate go up. It ruins the specimen." I found a second birth certificate under the lining of Elena's travel bag. Elena and I have lived together for 3 years. We share a small apartment in a quiet part of town. Our life is very normal. I work in an office. She works at a library. On Tuesdays, we eat tacos. On Sundays, we go for a walk. About 6 months ago, Elena changed. She started leaving the house every Thursday night. She said she was going to a book club. I believed her. She always came back around 10 o'clock. She smelled like old paper and cheap coffee. One night, I was looking for a pen. I opened her travel bag. I felt something hard under the bottom fabric. I pulled it back. There were 2 birth certificates. Both had the same birthday. Both had the same parents. One said, Elena. The other said, Mira. I did not know anyone named Mira. Elena never told me she had a sister. She told me she was an only child. Her parents died in a car crash 10 years ago. The next Thursday, I did not stay home. I waited in my car around the corner. Elena walked out of our apartment at 6 o'clock. She was wearing her blue coat. She did not go to the library. She walked to the bus stop. She took a bus to the edge of the city. I followed the bus in my car. I stayed far back. She got off in a neighborhood with old gray houses. She walked to a house with boarded-up windows. She used a key and went inside. I sat in my car for 3 hours. The lights in the house stayed off. At 9 o'clock, the front door opened. Elena came out, but she looked different. Her hair was messy. She was walking with a limp. She looked tired. She got on the bus and went home. I stayed at the house. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. Another woman walked out. She was wearing the blue coat. She had Elena's face. She had Elena's hair. She walked perfectly. She looked happy. She headed toward the bus stop. I felt cold. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I waited until the second woman was gone. Then I went to the front door of the house. The door was not locked. I went inside. The air smelled like rot and bleach. I used my phone light. The living room was empty. There was no furniture. I heard a sound from the kitchen. It was a scratching sound. I walked into the kitchen. There was a plate of raw meat on the floor. There was a bowl of water. In the corner, there was a heavy wooden door with a small iron grate. I looked through the grate. A woman was sitting on a thin mattress. She looked exactly like Elena. She was wearing a dirty nightgown. Her fingernails were broken and bloody. She was scratching at the wall. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wide. She didn't scream. She whispered one thing. "Is it my turn yet?" I realized then. The woman in the blue coat, the one going to my apartment, wasn't Elena. And the woman who left the house with the limp wasn't Elena either. They were switching. Every week, they switched who got to be Elena and live in my house. And they had been doing it for months. I went back home. I walked into the bedroom. The woman in the blue coat was brushing her hair. She looked at me in the mirror and smiled. It was a perfect smile. "How was your night, honey?" she asked. I looked at the hairbrush. I looked at her face. I did not know which one she was. I did not know if the woman I fell in love with was currently in my bedroom or locked in that dark kitchen. "It was fine," I said. My voice sounded small. I climbed into bed. She turned off the light and laid down next to me. She cold, thin hand touched my arm. I stayed awake all night. I am still awake now. I don't know who is sleeping next to me. I don't know what will happen next Thursday.